We got Minnesota at 10. They dropped 5 spots. I don't know if he saw it, but I threw it out to Jeff Ruder, who we had last week, just to chime in as well, because we talked about this one a ton on Extra Time. I mean, this was one of the most entertaining games of the weekend, and even in that scoreless first half, I was kind of wrapped on it, and mostly that was around Babila Reynoso, who is an absolute baller. Jeff, what's the reaction here as I hear you jump in? What's the reaction in Minnesota to a 4-0 loss, run it back, Western Conference final disappointment for the Loons?
The mood is tense. There's fires going on throughout all of St. Paul. It's all ablaze. I think that they've realized that they can't be planning a title route. No, I mean, it's one game, right? And I think that Minnesota United fans at this point have learned that you can only take so much off of the first game. I saw Doyle's summation that it was not quite Demidov vintage, but damn near it. I would say that 5 spots was probably a little bit kind. In terms of how much they were dropped. Look, I mean,
Minnesota nice. It was a Minnesota nice moment.
It was a Minnesota nice moment. Look, I think that coming into the season, and we talked about this last week, but one of the key selling points on this Minnesota United team was its depth, was the fact that they would be able to play too deep. And when people talked about, how are they going to replace Alonso? What are they going to do if Avila is not ready to play right away? No one was asking what would happen if Bakaye Dibassy isn't able to play from the start. And he's their left center back. And to date, they have had exactly 2 left-footed center backs that they have trusted for extended periods of time. Bakaye Dibassy, who joined last summer, and Francisco Calvo, who they traded right before the defense went and became a competent defense in 2019. So it has never been an area of strength. They got Callum Montgomery, who's coming off of, some U23 reps with Canada, which is good, but he's very untested at the level, only has really played at the USL League One level and occasionally at the championship with San Antonio. And Brent Kallman stepped in and, I mean, for 70 minutes held on the same way he has through his first 3 MLS seasons with grit and determination. And then eventually Raul Ruidiaz and Christian Roldan worked him, left, right, and center. So I don't know if they're quite panicking. I think they're humbled. I think that they looked at this as a great way to get people to stop talking about the MLS Cup doorstep collapse, and far from it based off that first game.
Hey, before I let you go, Wanchope's debut. What did you think of it? What did Adrian Heath think of it? I mean, it was active. He was coming in. He was ready to fire.
Yeah, he was active. I think that is, if there's one encouraging sign to take from it, it's the fact that he and Reynoso have not forgotten how to play soccer with each other, which should make him, once his fitness levels are there, it should make him a pretty easy plug and play option up top. So that's encouraging. As long as they can find the goals, that's a good start. But yeah, suddenly you're really watching and wondering when Dibassy can come in and help provide cover, not just for Brent Kallman, but also help Chase Gasper out on that side.
Dibassy, great call. Jeff Ruder on Twitter. Athletic is where his work is. I love paying for it. You can follow him on Twitter. He's right here in this Twitter space, so just jump in there and follow Jeff Ruder. All right, let's keep it rolling, Doyle. Sam, if you're still there, we're at Atlanta United at number 9. I just want to establish for you and for everyone listening and for the entire world that Atlanta United continue to be, despite going on the road to Orlando, lower than Orlando City in the MLS power rankings. How does that make you feel?
It obviously has left him speechless. Poor Sam Jones.
He jumped in. He was out, then he jumped back in.
No, he jumped in. He heard your question, and he was like, I got nothing to say about that.
That's what's up.
Sam, are you there? Are you
I'm there. Not left too speechless anyway, but not so much worried about the power rankings, maybe a little bit concerned about where goals are going to come from still. It's definitely not from Ezequiel Barco misplaying passes in transition by about 20 yards, which happened, I think, twice in this game, and it's like kind of seems to be a theme. I'm still kind of looking around, wondering, and kind of listening to, Ben talking about Nashville and wondering if this team is maybe just going to be Nashville with extra steps for like the next 3 or 4 months. A team that's good defense, very good defensively.
Shots in the South.
Very good defensively, making the rotations and everything that Gabby Heinze wants to see, but maybe doesn't have the guys to get the end product right now.
I can't argue with a single word of that. Like every year we've done it with Ezequiel Barco being like, okay, he's got the ball at his foot. They're asking a lot of him. This is going to be his year. And it has not happened for him yet. And after this game, it's tough to talk myself into believing that it's going to happen for him this year. No.
You have so many data points at this point, right? Like, I mean, he's been here 3 years. I mean, he hasn't played a ton. I think he's started maybe 40 something games out of a potential 90 something, which is crazy to think about as well. But even when he's been on the field, he just hasn't had that product you would expect from a player who costs somewhere in the range of like $15 million. And when you have that many data points, you kind of start looking around and wondering if there's an opportunity in the summer to move him, do you do it? Do you open up a DP spot and see what you can bring in to transform this attack? Because right now, I'm having trouble seeing a way out of it because Joseph just doesn't look like Joseph, and the rest of the guys aren't there to make the runs in behind, to make interesting things happen one-on-one. It's going to be interesting for sure.
As we all suspected, this team will go as far as Brooks Lennon and Jake Mulroney can carry them.
That's exactly right. Brooks is putting in shifts. We're still trying to figure out what's going on the right wing with Jake and Jürgen Damm as well. But it's interesting to kind of look across the way and see a player like John Gallagher doing what he did in 30 minutes for Austin.
Don't do it. Don't.
Okay, maybe
like that. I saw you tweeting out those Tito Villalba highlights, Sam. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the Atlanta fan base.
Sam, you're depressing everyone because they really hate to hear Atlanta United fans feeling sad. Like, there's one thing that MLS fans at large really don't like to see. It's sad Atlanta United fans. So I think we should just move on.
I know. It's for the best. It's for the best, Sam. Sam's putting together power rankings. If you have not gone and checked those out at MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app, absolutely get over there and do that right now. You can scroll through them at the same time that we're going through this. Julia Poe is going to join us in 1 second. Let's hit Sporting Kansas City real fast, Doyle. Up 3 spots from 11. A nice 2-1 win on the road against the Red Bulls. I'm not sure that, we've been talking a lot of these teams like, were you sold by week 1? Is that who they are? I think we're going to be waiting for a second to see exactly who Sporting KC are. I mean, you had Gianluca Busio at false 9 with Alan Polito on the bench. This team is going to look and operate much, much different with Polito in the lineup. I mean, he, in my opinion, is a Zelarayan, is a, maybe more apt, a Reynoso, a guy that everything revolves around and is built around. And when he's there, the ceiling is super high. When he's not, look, just get results and be happy about it. And they should be happy that Daniel Shalhoub got a goal and got on the board, and they won in New York.
Yeah, I mean, it's about getting results first and foremost, and they did that. And the other thing is playing against the Red Bulls. It's like the Red Bulls' goal is to make it impossible to play soccer.
Yeah,
and I give Sporting a ton of credit for actually going out there and playing soccer for good chunks of time, more so in the second half than in the first half. And doing what you would want to see of a veteran team, a team that topped the Western Conference last year. So I was kind of impressed. With Sporting KC's performance and result. And like you said, we'll get to know more of them as the weeks go on. And actually this weekend on Friday, they host Orlando. That game is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1 and Fox Deportes. You got to plug the national TV games, Weeby. It's how it goes.
Yeah, man, that's a great game too.
And a segue to Julia.
Yeah, there
because
we go. We got
Orlando City. Orlando City are next at 7th.
Julia, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I am. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, everybody, you can follow Julia's work, the Orlando Sentinel. She does awesome work. Before we get into Orlando and the performance, can I just get from you the latest on Alexander Pato? I mean, I'm not devastated, but I'm extremely sad to see him go down in week 1. But it sounds like maybe there's a positive spin on all this.
Definitely. I mean, we don't have a ton of details. Orlando City over the last few years has really been keeping it really close to the vest in terms of injuries, as a lot of teams do. What we do know is that he did not require surgery. He is right now with what they're calling a lower body injury. It appeared that he went down and appeared to hurt that right knee in some way, kind of seemed to hyperextend it as he was going down during a play. So we don't know a lot right now. The club has not set any type of timetable for his return. Right now, for a lot of fans, it's kind of a wait and see. But I do think that hearing that he did not require surgery made a lot of fans feel a lot better.
It feels a little weird right now. No Pereira in this game. Obviously, Daryl DK is not with the club. He's on loan and killing it and probably won't be back. Or maybe you can correct me if that's not the case. Feels like there's a lot of holes in the squad that really fueled this resurgence last year under Oscar Pareja. I mean, that's kind of a consistent thing around MLS right now, injuries. How complete do you think this team was? How much do you take from week 1?
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely not a complete ideal roster for this team right now. They have, like you said, Mauricio Pereira is out, Pato's out, DK's on loan, Jean Moutinho is still going to be recovering from that surgery. And then you have some questionable players like Rosell and Janssen, who are such important players for the defense and the defensive midfield. So it's a little bit of a different squad. I think in some ways that's almost good for this team right now. They're getting to test out some of this depth that Oscar Pareja had really talked about wanting to develop throughout this season. So you are getting chances for, your Alex, for Sylvester Vanderwater to come in, for some of these younger players. Andres Perea was able to come in and make a huge impact in the second half in that first game. So I think you're seeing some positives come out in that, and that the depth is getting tested early, but this is definitely not going to be the ideal, starting group that Oscar would be looking at in season.
Going to be an evolution for Orlando City. We saw a little of that in the game, more of a 4-4-2 in the first half, 4-2-3-1 in the second half. Is there much to take away from that? To me, they looked better in the 4-2-3-1, but that might be personnel more than any specific preference from Oscar.
Yeah, I definitely think that was a really strong second half adjustment. Oscar was really happy with how Pato looked up in kind of that number 9 position, and just giving him a little bit more space to breathe at the top, having Perea behind him. I also think that just in terms of personnel, you can see the impact that Andres Perea can make on a game. He's one of those players that is still flying a little bit under the radar for this team, but he's so young and his ceiling is so high that there's times when you can bring him in like that as a substitute and he'll just kind of completely settle the mood and the momentum of the game up top. So I think that they're still kind of trying to tweak and figure that out. And right now with personnel, they're playing Kyle Smith out of position at left back to fill in for Zhao. So there is a lot of still kind of trying to piece together how this works with the personnel they have. And anytime that Mauricio is out, be putting out a different look than they would be if he was game.
Hey, last one for you here, Julia. Everybody can follow her work at Orlando Sentinel. It's awesome stuff. By Julia Poe on Twitter. Fellow Kansan, shout out, point to the sky. Julia, how does this team deal with heightened expectations? They did what they said they wanted to do. They got into the playoffs. They have promise. How do they sustain it, and how much pressure is on them to do so?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on them, but so much of it is coming internally. This is a team that felt the offseason was way too long. They were very ready to get back into preseason camp, very, very determined to just pick up where they left off last season. So I think if you hear what these guys are saying in the locker room, before and after training, before games, any pressure that you think is on this team, a lot of it is coming internally. They feel let the fans down last year. They felt like they could have gotten much farther in the playoffs. So I know that there's a lot of external pressure, but the players took last season pretty personally, and you can see that just speaking with a lot of them. There's a lot of very heightened intensity around them in that locker room.
All right, Julia, thank you so much for joining us. If we had more time, I'd ask you about Nani's haircut, but I think we can all agree it's a little questionable.
It's a choice, that's for sure. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Julia Poe on Twitter. She is great. She does great work covering the team down there. Let's keep it rolling, Doyle. 6, Portland. They're down 3 spots from 3 to start it out. They went to Utah, a.k.a. to Vancouver. Work with that within your mind as you may, and lost 1-0. What'd you think of that game, and was it just CCL hangover?
I think it was primarily CCL hangover, certainly in terms of their attack. And, bear in mind, they're still doing this without Sebastian Blanco and Jeremy Obasi and Yaroslav Nizgoda. And the first 2 guys on that list seem like they're relatively close to coming back, which will give them some depth and the ability to change their approach a little bit. And obviously in Blanco, give them their very best player back. So I don't think there's any reason to panic overall for Portland. At the same time, they continue to look pretty fragile defensively. They were pretty bad on set pieces last year. I think they gave up 13 set piece goals, which was
Giovanni Savarese has talked about it as this being something that has to be fixed. I think he said it on our show. Like we asked him, he said, "Yeah, that's an issue. We know it."
Yeah. And so for that to carry over, especially when you're a veteran team, especially when they've brought in 4 new defenders in the past 2 years, that's supposed to fix those issues, and it hasn't. And like, given a DP center forward to look like that unmarked off a corner kick from 6 yards, like that's insane. So I think that there's no reason to panic, but there is reason to be concerned a little bit for Portland fans, because frankly, like if you're that bad on set pieces, it lowers your ceiling. Like this team's going to be a playoff team. It's fine that they're still in the top 5 or 6. I sure I had them there, but you're not gonna win any silverware unless you start doing your job defending set pieces.
Portland at 6 in these Week 1 MLS Power Rankings. You can check them out at MLSsoccer.com or the MLS app. Portland are going to host the Houston Dynamo on Saturday. That's ESPN Plus, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. How you like that, Doyle? And I didn't say it. I should have said it. The Sunday game this week, and I just see one on the schedule, and it's a pretty good one. LA, New York Red Bulls in LA on FS1 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. All the listings right there. We've talked about it on the show. It's only on the weekend right now, folks. You only have to prioritize that time. Pick your games. Ideally, pick those national TV games. We're trying to grow this thing. Let's go to number 5, New England Revolution. They draw in Chicago 2-2. They're actually up 1, which is interesting, but their range is huge. It's 3-14. Number 5, New England. Does that sort of jive with the performance?
Who had him 14?
I don't know, man. I got to go check this out. Sometimes my mind is blown by the voting. I'm not sure what people would have seen to start them that low, period, but then to keep them that low even after a week 1. I mean, it's a draw on the road.
Yeah, it's a draw on the road. It took them 15 minutes to come out of the locker room at the start of the season, and I'm sure Bruce Arena was not exactly thrilled about that. But then they were the better team for the rest of the game. They fought back from a 2-goal deficit and, scored 2 very opportunistic goals, which is very Bruce Arena. And then if Ed Kiza hits, doesn't hit the crossbar, if he's 3 inches lower with that shot, then they walk out of there with the full 3 points. I saw no reason to think that the Revs are anything less than one of the 3 best teams in the Eastern Conference. And I think that they'll get better as the new guys get integrated a little bit more, including the Icelandic winger whose name I'm not going to attempt to say until I hear the Revs broadcasters say it, because I will butcher that. He didn't play in this one. He's coming back. So I don't know. This didn't move the needle for me one way or the other on the Revs. I will say that it's the same thing as with Portland. Like, if they figure out how to be better defending set pieces, not that New England gave up any set piece goals in this one, but still, if they figure out how to be better defending set pieces in 2021, then their ceiling goes up really, really high to the point where it wouldn't be a shock at all if this team wins some sort of silverware.
Look, Bruce Arena, week 1, draw on the road, like, dust off the old hands, say, okay, that's fine, and walk away. And you got Gustavo Bo making a hard run in the box and scoring another post goal.
Yep.
Like, you got to be happy about that. At number 4, Philadelphia Union, they basically have stayed dead on where they were. They're 4 in preseason, 4 now. Their range is 2-8. So some people see them with a higher ceiling than others. Yeah, I mean, look, again, you say draw in preseason, they go to Columbus and get a draw against what we think is the best team in the league right now, and what the power rankings say is the best team in the league right now. I see no reason to be disappointed about that, especially coming off of CCL.
No reason at all. This team is so much better than I thought they were going to be at the start of the season.
I feel like an idiot. I feel like an idiot for being that was the problem. That was the narrative. You know how I love that, and I was just pounding home.
No, it's not. It's not narrative. It's actually like they lost 3 starters, 2 of whom were best 11, and they did not go out and bring in veterans or high-priced youngsters. Even
don't slander Leon Flock like that, because he's been like Kai Wagner-esque.
I don't think he has been quite that level, but like he's been super useful. And
you didn't know him, and he's been above average. How about that?
That's fair. And like it's just such a testament to the guys who are there. The Ale Bedoyas and Jose Martinez and Jamiro Montero, who I love as a number 10, but also to the overall culture of the Union, which is like just next man up. We believe that anyone who is in the pipeline, if they show it, we can plug and play, even in big games in CCL or against the reigning MLS Cup champions on the road to open the season. Next man up. That is a winning culture to me, and I think Union fans should be absolutely jacked about what this team has done over the past 2 weeks.
Might have been lucky for Jacob Glesnes that it wasn't next man up for him, because he didn't get the PK call, but like that's dog so.
That was close, right?
As Bobby Warshaw would say, that's dog so red so. He probably should have been outie. But look, you sometimes need breaks. They got one in that sense, and they got a 0-0 draw against the reigning MLS Cup champions. And they pushed through in CCL in impressive fashion. They got Atlanta United in that next round. To me, if I'm the Union, I'm sitting back in the cup being like, oh, maybe the semis are very reasonable goal for us. We got
it feels like it
here. Yeah.
Right? Like given the way the two teams have played this far, Atlanta versus Philadelphia is the favorites going into that series. That's based upon what we've seen. So
yep. All right, at 3, Seattle Sounders, they're up 5 from 8. People said, oh, wait, we were sleeping on Seattle. Oh, wait, they do have Ruidiaz. Oh, wait, Freddie Montero is quality. He just might be not 90 minutes every single week quality. What did you think about this performance against Minnesota? It was iffy. Maybe the first half we might have been looking around saying, okay, this is the Sounders we thought we might get. And then the second half was like, oh, crap, here come the Sounders again. And Christian Roldan was – I thought Christian Roldan was their best player.
He was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. And it's weird because we think of Christian Roldan as, probably more of an 8 and kind of a utility player. He's played a lot on the wing over the past couple of years. You don't really think of him as an attacking midfielder, even though that was his role coming into the league. And the way he plays it is so different because he's not a get on the ball and do incredible stuff type of Reynoso type of wizard or Nico Lodeiro type who everything goes through him. He plays central midfield. He plays attacking midfielder like he's a winger. And his movement, his north-south movement, his verticality, gives options to the rest of that Sounders midfield and even the back line that are kind of unusual. Like you don't see number 10s making those kinds of movements, and like I think that shows confusion. And B, puts so much pressure on the defense, and that pressure opens up spaces for the other attackers. In this case, Will Bruin and Raul Ruidiaz, and then eventually Freddie Montero as well as his brother. Alex Roldan had so much space because of the overloads that Christian was creating. He was so much fun to watch. The Sounders team was so much fun to watch in that second half. Credit to Brian Schmetzer, because I'm not sure, and this is a point our friend Jeremiah Oshan made, I'm not sure that it would have been as effective if it weren't for going with the 3-5-2 and specifically going with 2 true forwards who could kind of work off the spaces that Roldan and then to a lesser extent Atencio and João Paulo were making. It was like, I know it's just week 1 and I know Seattle have been in 4 of the last 5 MLS Cups. It felt like a statement game. And it certainly was a statement scoreline at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, and it was without Nico Lodeiro. So,
terrifying.
That would be something. That would be something. Now, one thing I will say is that I think Nuhu can be very good in that position. That sort of like back 3 position defensively. I don't know how anybody ever gets by him. I think his 1v1 instincts are really, really good. I was disappointed to see late in the game when they were up big that he turned around and ran backwards after having a wide open field in front of him. So I just really hope that Brian has not broken that recklessness from Nuhu, but congratulations to Seattle. 3 in these power rankings. We're into our top 2. LAFC is at number 2. And by the way, LAFC is hosting the Seattle Sounders on Saturday on ESPN. Check that one out. That's at 5 p.m. Central Time. So 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This was a weird weekend for them. It was a fine weekend. They got 3 points. But it was a weird weekend with the whole Carlos Vela sub. What did you think about that, and what did you think about the performance overall for Bob Bradley? So
I thought that I actually thought when I watched it that Vela was asking to be taken off.
Same.
So I have sympathy for Bob Bradley, but like I also feel like you should have protocols in place to make sure that
with Carlos, who's had these moments like that, and that's why we all assume it. It's because these things have happened to him and happened to him recently in his recovery from the previous injury throughout 2020. Like, you got to have something real clear. It's like, clap 3 times and then like do the like honking sign for a semi. Like, make it very clear to us that this is actually what you need. Otherwise, we're going to be in a situation where we're doing an interview in game and we're like, dang, I really jumped the gun on our MVP candidate and star player getting subbed.
Yeah, so that was weird, and obviously, Diego Rossi changed things a bit on the other side, and LAFC struggled. They weren't great in this game, but there are 2, I can't even call them silver linings, 2 unadulterated positives to come out of this game for LAFC. Number 1 was the play of Cisniega in goal. He was awesome. He had a shout to be team of the week with that performance. He had, I think, 1 big early save and then a couple in the second half, including a kick save that was just fantastic. That performance from a kid who has just won the number 1 shirt to the point where Kenneth Vermeer was like, deuces, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That if you're an LAFC fan, you have to be very pleased about that. And the other thing was, LAFC wasn't sharp. LAFC were missing their 2 Golden Boot winners, and that sort of beautiful machine that their attack was breaking down. And so right at the hour mark, they're like, screw it, we're going to press. And if you watch the lead up to that first goal they scored, Austin had no way of getting out of their defensive third. LAFC kept them pinned in there for 2 straight minutes, and eventually they broke down, and it was a lucky deflection from the top of the box, but those are the types of things that you earn when you put a defense under that much sustained pressure. So LAFC have this wonderful plan A, which is possession, intricate football, but their plan B is so effective, and that's just to brutalize you and make you make a mistake and then capitalize on it. And the fact that they did that without Vela and Rossi in week 1, it's not perfect for LAFC, but I think there's a lot of reasons to be happy.
Yeah, in some ways, this Carlos Vela thing was weird, but if you're Bob Bradley, you're like, we got less. There's less on his legs now.
Yep.
Now we also know that we should establish a signal between each other for substitution patterns and have this conversation with Carlos. But I think it's also a positive to say, and I've been asking for this during the offseason, is treat him with kid gloves a little bit, Carlos Vela.
Yeah.
Especially if you believe in the depth that you have and the system that you've built over these years. It is way more important to you. It's not more important to my predictions for him to be MVP and Golden Boot, but it's more important for LAFC for him to be prime Carlos Vela in October, November, December. So do whatever you need to do as a staff and a club to get to that point, to put yourself in the best position as far as playoff hosting, and also have your best player so that you can do what you want to do, which is win MLS Cup. I don't think anything else to them is going to be a disappointment. So everything builds towards that.
And you probably get a pissed off Carlos Vela for this weekend's game against Seattle, which is an added bonus right there.
Again, that one is on ESPN, I believe. Clicking back over to make sure. I'm looking at the new MLSsoccer.com just in case.
ESPN at
6 p.m. God!
5 p.m. Central and 4 p.m. Mountain Time. ESPN on Saturday.
Should I? Georgian time. I mean, the Georgia in the caucus.
Stop. You're going down a rabbit hole.
Sorry. Columbus at number 1. This is where we finish. Thank you for sticking with us, folks. These spaces are fun. I know Doyle has to be out of here at 30. So we got 4 minutes to talk about the number 1 team. You can go over and check out J. Sam Jones's work at MLSsoccer.com and the new MLS app. Number 1, they stay there. No change. They drew at home, but again, seeing what we saw in Mexico and in the U.S. I mean, I would say Canada, but they're playing in the U.S. This is fine. It's just fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it was a weirdly disappointing week for Columbus, given the injury to Aiden Morris and then dropping 2 home points to a rival. I think it is a bummer. It is a bummer for this team, but at the same time, I have seen nothing from them that suggests they are going to be anything less than an elite team again in 2021. They weren't exactly hitting their marks perfectly against Philadelphia, but that's what Philadelphia does. Philly make it really tough for you to play the type of soccer you want. Columbus were still able to create some really good chances, force Andre Blake into a couple of spectacular saves. Zella Ryan almost had it was fine. It was not the result you want, but like this is one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I just like watching Lucas Zelarayan, especially in that sort of like about to
He's
enter
magic.
the final third, receives the ball and gets turned on you. The waiting on his through balls and the vision there. I mean, I think Reynoso's a little bit better in that position as far as the passing side is, but it's close. And then his ability to just pull up from anywhere and with power, with like direction, shoot the ball it is really special.
It's like
sad for him. That one skimmed off the top of the crossbar.
Yeah. And Andre Blake was
he didn't even
rooted.
Move.
Yeah.
If Andre Blake's not moving, you know that thing's a heat seeker and he has no chance.
He has like Steph Curry in the gym range.
Yes.
Everything is a heat check, but it's like
Pull up, son.
it's completely earned. It's completely worthwhile for him to take a heat check. He is one of the most fun players in the league to watch, and this team is a hell of a lot of fun to watch as well.
I cannot wait until we see in CCL what they're able to do against Monterey. That one's coming up on the 28th of April, so get ready for that. And then this weekend for the Columbus Crew, just scrolling here, looks like they may be the off team this weekend. So they'll take a little bit of a rest.
They are.
That's okay.
They are indeed.
Yeah, go check out the full TV schedule at MLSsoccer.com. Prepare yourself for the weekend. The big national TV games, again, really encourage you. Watch those games. We want more coverage. We want more eyeballs on everything that our soccer is in this country. Support it. Kansas City, Orlando, Friday, FS1 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I repeat, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Univision, TUDN, and Twitter. You have San Jose hosting FC Dallas at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday. On ESPN right after that, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. LAFC Seattle, which I think really is the game of the weekend. And then on Sunday, you've got on FS1 at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, the Galaxy New York Red Bulls. I mean, that is the matchup that got me to love Major League Soccer. I'm not going to lie. It was the 5-4 at Giant Stadium. It was Beckham. It was Altidore. I was into the league before that, but that was like the catnip that just had me going wild. And from then on out, I was all about this league and domestic soccer in the U.S. So thank you, everybody, for following us on Spaces here. We're doing it every single Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right when the power rankings come out at MLSsoccer.com. Doyle, it's been a pleasure, man. This flies by.
It does.
I think I hit the time for you.
You did. We're right at the wire, but I appreciate that. But maybe we'll stretch it to 2 hours next week because this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for listening, everybody. Do us a favor. If you see us jump on. You can only listen on the Twitter app. That's the way Spaces is right now. Share, retweet, help us grow this thing, and we'll try to find a way to get more questions in our Twitter mentions as well so we involve more of you. Have a great Tuesday, great week, everybody. Head over to MLSsoccer.com for everything you need. New Extra Time is out as well. We will see you on Thursday with Charlie Davies to preview the MLS weekend. Adios.